Okay. So we're going to talk about right leg, left leg, strong leg, weak leg. So when you become a coach and you start to build your team, the first question that you might have or someone might ask you is, do you know which leg is your strong leg? I think there are actually two ways to have a strong leg. So that's not something that you'll hear sanctioned by Team Beachbody, but this is just how it was more clear to me when I thought of it this way. So strong leg number one, first and foremost, is when you see coaches placed in your downline that are not your own, then that is your strong leg. Strong leg number two, it should be the same as strong leg number one, but it's the leg that produces the most volume. So if you have coaches being placed on your strong leg by your upline, then hopefully, naturally, that will be the leg that produces the most volume. That is not the case for me, but that's because my upline coach is not working the business. So that's why it was a little bit confusing for me at times, because I kept thinking, okay, this is my strong leg, but it's not really. So just to break it down, if you look in your online office at your placement, there will be you, and then you'll have a personally sponsored coach on one leg. This would be your right leg. And then you'll see maybe a non-PS coach on your left leg, and that is one that's been placed there by your upline. That's not one that is your own personal coach, and if you don't know that that happens, you'll be like, who the heck is this person in my downline? I don't know who that is. If it doesn't have that little PS above it, then it's just a coach being placed by your upline. So if this is what your left leg looks like, then this is your strong leg. It might be on your right leg. It just depends on where you're placed by your coach. So you will find this is your strong leg based on placement, okay? So then we can start to transition into what might happen when your strong leg is the leg that's actually just producing the most volume. And that's really, in my opinion, all that matters is when it comes to volume, that's what you need to know. That's what you need to look at for your strong leg, because who cares if coaches are being placed below you on one leg. What you need to pay attention to is how much volume is being produced by those legs. So if this is my strong leg, because I have coaches being placed here, it should probably end up being my stronger leg. But in this example, I rigged it like how this is how it works for me in real life. And then you'll have weeks where this is how it is. It'll bounce back and forth. Some coaches will produce more volume on one week than another. And so this just kind of naturally happens. So in this example, my strong leg has 270 PB. So they all got their Shakeology, except this one, she skipped hers this month or whatever. And then over here, we have 450 PB. So this coach has 270 PB. That may not be just her own or his own personal orders. That may be like they have two coaches below them and they all ordered Shakeology. So this is what happens typically on my downline. I just have a lot of volume being produced on this leg. So you'll see that this is actually the strong leg because it's producing the greater volume, even though the non-personally sponsored coaches are on the left. So, like I just said, this is strong leg number one based on placement, but this is actually the strong leg this cycle because you're looking at volume, and that's how I look at everything now. I just look at volume. So when we'll go into cycle bonuses now. So once you achieve Emerald rank, then you start earning cycle bonuses. And at first you're going to be like $14, like that's so stupid. Like, what's that going to get me? But those add up over time. So I think team cycle bonuses are incredibly awesome. So the potential, just because there's that potential for residual income and you're not, it's not just commissions each week. So for each cycle, it pulls 200 PV from your strong leg and 100 PV from your weak leg, and that equals one cycle. Every time you cycle, If you're Emerald, it's $14. If you're Ruby, $16, and if you're Diamond, it's $18. And more times you cycle, the more you earn. So volume is king or queen. That's what's going to help you cycle more. And that's why we want everybody to get to Emerald quickly, because you get those 2 coaches, even if they're discount coaches, that's okay, because you're going to start getting volume from them, and then you're going to have volume from the coaches that your upline is placing below you as well. So that will help increase your cycles. So this is just, I just did a little example. I added it to the other screenshot. Your strong leg will switch back and forth. And if you've ever looked at, I don't know, I have to look at my Coach Online office to tell you where to find it, but you can see it breaks down your team cycle bonus. Like I think it's in commissions. If you look at your commissions and you've got team cycle bonus commissions, if you click on that, it'll show you where it pulled the 200 and the 100 from. And it'll pull from either side depending on which side has enough to pull that 200. So it bounces back and forth for you. You don't have to worry about, oh, did it take into effect that, or into account that I have volume being deducted. So you can actually see that in your online office once you start to get that team cycle bonus. So for my example that I had before, I had 450 PV on this side and 270 on the other. So this is my strong leg, and so it's automatically going to pull 200 PV from this side and 100 PV from my weak side. And then you still have some left over, 170 on this side and 250 on your right. So you can cycle again. So it will take another 200 and 100 over here. And then you're left with not enough to cycle again. So in an ideal world, you would have that perfect 1-to-2 ratio every time so that you could cycle as many times as possible, but it doesn't really work. I guess you could figure that out, but that sounds like a lot of work. So this leftover gets banked into like a savings account. It just stays there for next time, and you add on to it. So you can't lose that unless you drop rank. If you drop from Emerald, you lose those banked points. So it's obviously not going to be a whole lot once you've cycled right then. But if you've accrued, you know, however many PV over the next couple days after you cycle, and then you drop rank, then you will lose all that. So that's why it's important to keep your rank. All right, let me make sure I'm everything I wanted to say. Okay, yeah, we'll move on. Okay, so here's an example. Let's say your strong leg produces 1840, your weak leg produces 900. You're going to have 9 cycles with 40 PV left over. So you divide this by 200, you're going to have 9 would get you 1800, and then you'll have 40 PV left over. This one's going to give you a perfect 9, so you'll cycle 9 times with 40 PV left over. And like I said, if you drop rank, you lose that banked volume. So if you are an Emerald coach and you cycle 9 times, you make $126 for 1 week, which is not bad. That covers your Shakeology, if nothing else. So, and that's just 1 week. That adds up to be a pretty nice chunk of change if you cycle every week like that. And there is a 2-star diamond coach on Concrete Nation who earns $2,000 a week on just cycle bonuses. And I know everybody's like, oh, I don't want to talk about money. Well, that's part of the why we do this. I mean, our number one reason is to help people, but yeah, we like to earn money, and that's the appeal of this business. One of the things that appeals to me about this business is that I could potentially not have to earn commissions every week. I could just cycle bonus and count on that $2,000 a week. So that would be phenomenal, and that it requires that you have volume in your downline. So that's why I think discount coaches matter. That's why I try to convert all my Shakeology customers to discount coaches, not only to save them money, but it helps build my overall volume so that I can cycle more. And I think that's the end. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing and we'll go back here. Okay, does that make sense? Yeah, okay. Any questions about any of that?
I have a question. If you have a coach gets put in your downline that you didn't put there, um, is that a person that you need to reach out to, or is somebody else taking care of them?
Yeah, you don't have to take care of them. As long as they're not your personally sponsored coach, that is a coach who is being placed there by your upline. So Eric is your upline, and as I build his organization, then you'll see coaches pop below you, but you don't have to do anything. Those are Eric's. Those are mine to take care of.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything else?
Oh, I do have another question. So like with your placement, like if you're getting another coach and you only use the outside legs, I understand that.
Right.
But like, should there be a preference over like placing the next one on either side, or just try to keep it even?
It kind of depends on what you're trying to get to. Like now you're emerald, so your next goal is, we usually skip over ruby and just head for diamond, but your goal is that you're going to want to have 4 coaches on each leg, and then one of those on each leg is going to need to be an emerald. So you want to have 4 on each leg, but you're hopefully going to have one on each leg that's going to be a business builder, that's going to be like, oh man, I really want to do this. So you have to pay attention to that when you're setting placement for them. But beyond that, like after I hit diamond and I had lots of discount coaches, I was just trying to get my volume synced up so that it was a little more balanced, because I had one leg that's just producing massive amounts of volume and I wasn't cycling as much as I could. So I think once you get to diamond, then you can look at volume more instead.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything else exciting? Anything else we could go over in Coach Online Office? No, good to go. All right, girls. So I won't keep you. You know me. We'll roll on to something else. And I smell terrible, so I'm gonna go take a shower. And Abby, you look great. Did you do the wedding tonight?
Just came in the door from the wedding. Yeah.
That's awesome. I was gonna say, you look like you are all dolled up. Oh, I love it. All right, ladies. Well, I'm gonna stop recording.